Princess Leora of Zythera stared out of her palace window, her gaze lost in the violet horizon. She had once dreamed of flying among the stars with the galaxy's most noble allies, of attending grand feasts where she would laugh and dance freely, but that was before the accident. The accident that had taken her ability to walk. Now her legs refused to move and her body felt like a cage. The court had become cold and distant. Alien nobles, once respectful and curious, now whispered in the corners, their shimmering wings brushing each other in secret approval or disdain. Leora overheard fragments of their conversations. Words like useless, weak, and unworthy floated through the air. Each word stabbed at her heart, making her feel smaller, invisible. She touched the smooth metal of her hover chair and sighed. The chair moved her across the room, but it could not carry her dignity. She remembered her parents' worried eyes, their silent apologies. They wanted her to be married off, to secure alliances, to preserve the honor of the royal family. But no alien wanted a princess who could not walk, who could not fight, who could not stand as an equal among them. The news came one evening, carried by a royal messenger with trembling hands. "Your Highness, the council has arranged a marriage." "To a human," he said. Leora's heart froze. A human? From a distant primitive planet? Humans were fragile. They were simple. They were nothing like the proud, powerful beings of Zythera. She had grown up surrounded by warriors who could lift mountains, scholars who could bend the stars with their minds, artists who painted the skies with their thoughts, and now she was to be given to a human. She felt a mix of fear, anger, and sorrow. "Why me?" she whispered to the empty room. "Why am I the one they discard?" The palace grew quieter as the days passed. Friends who had once visited her now avoided her chambers. Invitations to feasts stopped arriving. Even the palace guards, loyal and stern, seemed unsure of how to treat her. Leora's only companions were her books, her memories, and the endless sky that she could see but never touch. Yet somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark of hope lingered. Perhaps this human could be different. Perhaps he could see her not as a crippled princess, but as a person with dreams, with thoughts, with courage. Leora clung to that fragile hope, though every whisper in the palace tried to snuff it out. When the day of the human's arrival finally came, Leora prepared herself. She straightened her shoulders, held her chin high, and tried to push down the anxiety gnawing at her chest. She did not want to show fear. She did not want to cry in front of him. She wanted to be strong, even if only for a moment. The royal doors opened and the human entered. Leora's eyes widened. He was tall, his skin rougher than the smooth alien texture she was used to, but his eyes, warm, honest, and calm, met hers without hesitation. He did not flinch at her hover chair, did not glance at her paralysis with disgust. He bowed politely, his voice steady and respectful. "Princess Leora," he said simply, "I am Commander Ethan. I am honored to meet you." Something inside her stirred, a flicker of curiosity, a whisper of trust. She did not yet know him, yet there was a sense of safety in the way he looked at her. Not pity, not fear, just respect. But even as the human stood before her, Leora's heart remained heavy. No alien had wanted her. The galaxy had turned its back on her. And now she wondered, would this human be her salvation? Or simply another disappointment in a life that seemed determined to reject her? The answer lay ahead, somewhere in the unknown paths of trust, courage, and love, waiting for Leora to take the first step. The first time Leora saw Ethan up close, she was surprised. He did not look like the humans she had read about in old texts, weak, fragile, clumsy. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a steady posture, but it was his eyes that captured her attention. They were warm, calm, and completely unafraid. Ethan moved through the palace without hesitation. He observed everything: the grand hall, the delicate crystal chandeliers, the intricate murals depicting generations of Zytheran rulers. He asked questions not out of mockery, but from genuine curiosity. He wanted to understand her world, her people, her life, and when he turned to her, his smile was gentle, not pitying. "Princess Leora," he said, bowing low, "I have traveled far to meet you. I will honor and protect you in every way I can." Leora felt her heart tighten. No alien had ever spoken to her like this. They had looked at her as an object to be judged, dismissed, or pitied. But Ethan's words carried sincerity, respect, even kindness. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded, unsure what to say. It was strange to feel hope after months of rejection. It was stranger to feel it toward a human. Days passed and Ethan settled into the palace. He was patient, careful, and observant. He did not try to do everything for her, but he helped when he could. When Leora wanted to move through the palace, he devised ways to assist her. When she struggled with her hover chair, he stayed by her side until she mastered it. Slowly, he became not just a companion, but a presence she relied on without even realizing it. The court, however, was less kind. Alien nobles whispered behind their hands, their gazes sharp with judgment. "A human? For our princess?" they muttered. "How weak she must be." Some even attempted subtle tests, pushing Leora into situations that would require strength or agility, hoping to embarrass her. But Ethan did not flinch. When she needed help, he offered it without shame. When others mocked, he calmly defended her. He never showed anger, only quiet determination. Leora watched him in awe. This human, this stranger, stood taller than any alien she had ever known. And slowly, something began to change inside her. She began to laugh again. Not the polite, forced laughter of courtly manners, but real laughter that shook her chest and warmed her heart. She told Ethan stories of her childhood, of dreams she had once held, of fears she still carried. And he listened, truly listened, as if her words mattered more than the stars themselves. One evening, as the twin moons of Zithira rose in the sky, Leora found herself speaking before she could stop. "Why do you stay, human? No one else wanted me. No one else could see past this." She gestured to her hover chair, to the paralysis that had changed her life forever. Ethan took her hand in his, strong yet gentle. "Because you are worth every risk, every effort, every star in the galaxy," he said. "I see you, not what you cannot do, but who you are. And who you are is remarkable." Tears blurred Leora's vision. No one had ever said that to her. Not in the palace, not in her studies, not in her dreams. She had felt unwanted, discarded, unworthy. But here, standing beside this human, she felt something she hadn't in years. Hope. And in that hope, a seed was planted. Perhaps this marriage, once a punishment in her eyes, could be something else. Perhaps with Ethan she could discover a new kind of strength. One that did not depend on legs that worked or wings that could fly, or a body that matched alien standards. A strength that came from heart, mind, and courage. For the first time, Princess Leora did not feel alone in the galaxy. Life in the palace was not easy for Leora, even with Ethan by her side. The alien court still whispered, their eyes sharp and judgmental. Some nobles avoided her entirely, while others offered polite smiles that hid scorn beneath. She could feel their disapproval, like cold wind brushing against her skin. Every glance, every word seemed to remind her that she was different. That she was... Lest at first Leora tried to ignore it. She reminded herself that she had Ethan, that he had chosen her when no one else had. But ignoring the whispers did little to quiet the ache in her chest. There were days when she felt small, trapped in her hover chair and powerless against the weight of the palace's silent judgment. Ethan noticed. He never forced her to pretend she was fine. He never dismissed her fears. Instead, he stood by her quietly, offering support in ways both small and significant. He held her hand during tense meetings, spoke firmly when someone sneered at her, and even learned the intricacies of alien customs so that he could assist her with dignity. "You don't have to face them alone," he told her one evening, as they watched the suns of Zithira sink behind the mountains. "You are not weak, Leora. You are strong, and together we can face anything." Those words sank into her heart, filling spaces that had been empty for years. Slowly, Leora began to trust herself again. She realized that strength wasn't only about walking, fighting, or impressing nobles. It could come from courage, from resilience, from refusing to let the world define her worth. Yet the palace's challenges were not just whispers. One day, a group of alien nobles arranged a test of her abilities, inviting her to a ceremonial flight through the palace's floating gardens. They expected her to fail, to stumble, to embarrass herself in front of everyone. Leora's heart pounded as she faced the challenge. Her hover chair gave her movement, but it was awkward and unfamiliar. Panic rose, but then she felt Ethan's hand on hers. "You can do this," he said simply. "I believe in you." With his guidance, she navigated the gardens. The path was difficult, narrow, and twisting, But step by step she moved forward. The crowd watched in silence, many expecting her to falter. But she did not. She completed the course, her heart racing with triumph. For the first time, the court looked at her differently. Some faces softened, others still skeptical, but none could deny that she had succeeded. And beside her, Ethan's eyes shone with pride. That night, alone in her chambers, Leora allowed herself to speak honestly. "I was afraid, Ethan," she said. "Afraid that no one would ever see me as more than this." She gestured at her hover chair. "Afraid that being paralyzed would make me invisible." Ethan held her close. "You were never invisible," he said. "You were just waiting for someone who could see the real you. And that's me." Leora felt tears fall, not from sorrow but from relief. The fear that had clung to her for so long began to loosen. She realized that her struggle wasn't just against her body or the court. It was against the doubt she had carried in her heart. And with Ethan, she found the courage to fight it. By the time the moons rose again over Zithra, Leora's spirit had begun to awaken. She felt a strength she hadn't known she possessed, a quiet power that came not from her legs but from her mind, her heart, and the bond she shared with the human who refused to abandon her. For the first time in years, Leora believed that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy could see her for who she truly was, and that she could thrive not in spite of her paralysis, but because of the courage it had taught her. Peace in the palace was fragile as the light that shimmered across Zithira's crystal towers. Leora had grown stronger, more confident, yet the whispers of the court never fully disappeared. She knew her status as a paralyzed princess married to a human made her a target, and soon that target would be tested in ways she could not have imagined. One evening, a distant alarm rang across the palace. Red lights flashed, reflecting off the walls in jagged patterns. A faction from a neighboring planet, jealous of Zithra's wealth and the unusual alliance with a human, had sent warships. They believed the princess's weakness would make the kingdom easy to conquer. Fear tightened its grip around Leora's chest. Her legs were weak. Her body was limited. How could she possibly help defend the palace? Yet as panic surged, she felt a familiar hand grasp hers, Ethan's. His grip was firm, reassuring. "We will face this together," he said. "You are not alone, and you are far stronger than you think." The battle began as the alien fleet approached the city. Explosions lit the violet sky, and alarms echoed through the palace halls. Guards rushed to their posts, but many faltered when they saw the threat. Yet Ethan moved with determination. He organized the palace defenses, directing soldiers, setting traps, and even piloting alien crafts alongside veteran pilots. Leora watched, astonished. The human she had feared would be weak was fearless. His strategies were bold and effective, saving lives and giving hope to the frightened court. She felt a surge of pride, mixed with something she had never known before. Inspiration. "I can help too," she whispered to herself. For the first time, she refused to remain only an observer. Using advanced controls adapted to her hover chair, Leora accessed the palace defense systems. She guided energy shields, monitored enemy movements, and issued commands alongside Ethan. Together, they became a team, two leaders standing against a threat that had seemed insurmountable. As the battle raged, Leora felt a strange calm. She could not move her legs, yet her mind and heart were sharper than ever. Every decision she made mattered. Every command she gave saved lives. And with Ethan by her side, she realized that true strength did not come from the body. It came from courage, from clarity, from refusing to surrender to fear. Hours passed, and the alien fleet began to falter. Ethan's human intuition combined with Leora's keen strategies made them unstoppable. One by one, the enemy ships retreated, leaving Zithra's towers intact, its people safe. When the last warning lights faded, the palace was quiet. Soldiers and nobles alike looked at the princess differently. She had faced danger and not only survived but led with brilliance. Leora's chest swelled with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. She had not been weak. She had been powerful in ways no one had expected. Ethan turned to her, sweat glistening on his brow, eyes shining with pride. "See," he said softly, "you are stronger than anyone believed. Together we are unstoppable." Tears filled Leora's eyes. For so long she had believed that no one wanted her, that her body had defined her worth. But now she understood that strength could take many forms. It could come from love, from trust, from the courage to face what seemed impossible. That night, as Zithira's twin moons bathed the palace in silver light, Leora sat beside Ethan on the balcony. For the first time, she did not feel like a rejected princess. She felt like a leader, a survivor, a force to be reckoned with. And deep down, she knew that the real journey had only just begun. The galaxy would not forget the paralyzed princess who had led her people to victory, with a human by her side, and neither would she. The palace felt different after the battle. Where fear and whispers had once filled the halls, there was now a sense of respect. Some nobles who had doubted Leora approached her cautiously, their eyes hesitant but no longer filled with scorn. The human at her side, Ethan, had become a symbol of loyalty, courage, and the unexpected strength that humans could bring to the galaxy. Leora herself felt a change within. She had spent years doubting her worth, believing that her paralysis made her incomplete, unworthy, invisible. But standing alongside Ethan, guiding the palace's defenses and facing danger head-on, she discovered a new kind of strength. Not in her legs, not in her body, but in her mind, her courage, and her heart. Ethan never treated her as fragile. He never spoke as if she were delicate or limited. Instead, he asked for her advice, shared his plans with her, and celebrated her victories. When she suggested new strategies for trade, diplomacy, or defense, he listened carefully, valuing her insights. Slowly, Leora realized that she was not just surviving, she was thriving. One evening, they walked together through the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected off the crystal fountains, casting a silver glow across the petals and leaves. Leora's hover chair glided smoothly over the paths, and for the first time she felt free, not from her paralysis, but from the fear that had confined her spirit for so long. "You've changed everything, Ethan," she said softly. "You've changed how I see myself, how the court sees me, maybe even how the galaxy sees me." Ethan smiled and squeezed her hand gently. "No, Leora, you've changed everything. I only reminded you of what was already inside you. You were always strong. You just needed to believe it." Leora looked at him, tears forming at the edges of her eyes. She thought of all the years she had spent feeling unwanted, discarded, invisible. And now here was a human who had chosen her, not for her title, not for her position, but for who she truly was. As the days turned into weeks, their bond grew stronger. They trained together, not for combat alone, but for leadership. Leora learned to operate advanced defense systems, piloted simulation crafts, and mastered the arts of negotiation and diplomacy. She discovered that she could inspire people, lead armies, and make decisions that shaped the fate of her planet, all without standing on her own two legs. Ethan never left her side, but he also never overshadowed her. He respected her space, encouraged her independence, and celebrated her triumphs. Their partnership became the heartbeat of Zithira, an example of what could be achieved when trust, love, and courage worked together. One quiet night, Leora whispered to him, "I used to believe no one would ever land me but you. You showed me that someone could see the real me, and that's enough. More than enough." Ethan kissed her forehead, a gentle promise in that simple gesture. "You were always worth seeing, Leora. I only had the honor of being the first to truly see you." In that moment, Leora felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. She was not just the paralyzed princess anymore. She was a leader, a partner, and someone capable of shaping her own destiny. The bond she shared with Ethan was no longer just about survival or trust. It was about understanding, love, and a shared strength that neither alien nor human could ignore. The palace hummed quietly around them, but for Leora, the galaxy had never felt larger, brighter, or more full of possibility. She realized that sometimes the ones who seemed weak to the world could become the strongest of all, especially when they had someone beside them who truly believed in them. And with Ethan, she felt unstoppable. The calm that had settled over Zithira was fragile, and soon it would be tested. Rumors arrived through the Galactic communication networks. A distant alien empire had learned of the unusual alliance between the paralyzed princess and the human commander. They saw weakness, a reason to conquer. A fleet of warships was already moving towards Zithira's borders. Leora felt the familiar twist of fear in her chest. She knew her legs could not carry her into battle. She knew the enemy might see her as vulnerable, an easy target. But this time, fear did not paralyze her spirit. She had Ethan by her side, and together they had faced challenges that had once seemed impossible. "Leora," Ethan said softly, holding her hand as they watched the incoming fleet on the holomap. "We face them together. You are not alone. Your strength has always been more than your body." She nodded, drawing courage from his words. The palace guards prepared, and citizens were organized for protection. But the weight of leadership fell heavily on the princess. Every decision mattered. Every instruction she gave could save lives or cost them. When the enemy fleet entered Zithera's orbit, panic swept through the city. Explosions lit the skies and alarms shook the palace walls. Yet Leora remained steady, her mind sharper than ever. Using her hover chair and advanced control systems adapted for her, she monitored enemy movements, calculated defensive maneuvers, and coordinated her people. Ethan was beside her the entire time, piloting crafts, leading strike teams, and defending her from immediate threats. But it was Leora's strategy, her insight, and her calm under pressure that turned the tide. She directed the energy shields, gave commands that no one else could have anticipated, and inspired soldiers to fight with courage, not fear. For the first time, some of the nobles who had scorned her watched in awe. The paralyzed princess, once considered weak, had become a commander, a leader, a symbol of resilience. The human beside her, once thought fragile, had proven that bravery did not depend on alien physiology but on heart, mind, and loyalty. Hours of intense fighting passed. The alien fleet underestimated Zithera's defenses, misjudged the humans and aliens working together, and faltered. By midnight, the invaders retreated, their ships scattered across the stars. The city was safe, and Zithera had survived. Leora's chest heaved with exhaustion, but pride and relief mingled with the tiredness. She turned to Ethan, seeing the same mixture in his eyes. "We did it," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "We actually did it." Ethan smiled and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "No one could have done it like us. Together we are unstoppable." In that moment, Leora understood the truth. Strength was not measured by what one could physically do, but by courage, determination, and the willingness to stand when the world expected you to fall. She had been paralyzed. Yes, but she had also been resilient, creative, and fearless in ways that no alien or human could have predicted. That night, as the twin moons bathed the palace in soft silver light, Leora looked out over Zithera. Her people celebrated below, but she was quiet, reflecting on how far she had come. She no longer felt like the princess who had been rejected, unwanted, or weak. She was a leader, a strategist, a symbol of hope, and a human had stood beside her every step of the way. Ethan's hand found hers again, gentle and reassuring. "You see, Leora," he said, "no one else wanted you, but the right one did. And together, we proved that nothing, no enemy, no prejudice, no limitation, can stop what we believe in." Leora smiled through tears, feeling the weight of fear lift from her shoulders. The challenge had been immense, but it had also revealed something she had always known, deep in her heart. She was not defined by her body. She was defined by her spirit, her courage, and the love that had given her wings even without the ability to walk. And in that moment, she knew the galaxy would never see her, or humans, the same way again. The palace of Zithera was quiet now. The battle was over, the invading fleet had retreated, and the citizens celebrated in the streets below. For the first time in years, Princess Leora felt a true sense of peace. She had faced fear, rejection, and danger, and she had emerged stronger than anyone, including herself, had expected. She wheeled herself to the balcony, the cool night air brushing her face, and watched the twin moons cast silver light over the city. Ethan stood beside her, his presence steady and comforting. He did not need words. They shared a silence filled with understanding, gratitude, and pride. "No alien wanted me," Leora whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "No one thought I could lead. No one thought I could survive." Ethan's hand found hers, strong and reassuring. "No one wanted you, until the right one did," he said softly. "And together we've shown the galaxy what true strength is." Tears filled her eyes, but they were tears of triumph. She remembered the lonely days when she had felt invisible, the whispers of the court that had made her doubt her worth, and the moments she had wished to give up. But now she realized those moments had been the first steps on her journey to something greater. The court approached cautiously, their expressions mixed with awe and respect. Aliens who had once turned their eyes away now bowed, some even kneeling in acknowledgement. They had seen her courage, her leadership, and the human beside her, and they understood that power did not belong solely to those with strength in their limbs or grandeur in their wings. Leora lifted her chin, her voice clear and commanding. We faced the impossible and survived. Let no one here doubt that courage, loyalty, and love are stronger than prejudice. We are not weak. We are not defined by what others see as limitations. We are defined by our actions and our hearts. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Leora could feel the respect growing, not just for her, but for Ethan and for the alliance they represented. Humans, once seen as fragile and insignificant, had proven themselves capable, brave, and true. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. Look at what we've done, he said. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who doubted. For everyone who was told they were less than. We've changed what the galaxy believes. Leora smiled through her tears. For so long she had believed she was unwanted, discarded, and incomplete. Now she understood. Her value had never depended on what she could do physically. It depended on who she was, courageous, clever, compassionate, and on the bond she shared with someone who truly saw her. That night, as the celebrations continued below, Leora and Ethan stayed on the balcony, watching the city glow with life. The stars above seemed brighter, as if the universe itself acknowledged the triumph of the paralyzed princess and the human who had stood beside her. In her heart, Leora knew this was more than victory. It was proof that the galaxy could change, that prejudice could be overcome, and that even those deemed weak or unwanted could rise to greatness. She had not only survived, she had become a symbol of hope, courage, and unity. Ethan leaned closer, resting his forehead against hers. You were always meant for this, Leora, he whispered. And together, we will face whatever comes next. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his presence, the strength of her own spirit, and the hope that now burned brighter than ever. The galaxy might have turned its back on her once, but it would never do so again. Princess Leora, paralyzed yet unstoppable, human at her side, had rewritten the story of what it meant to be strong. And in that moment she knew that nothing, not fear, not doubt, not even the stars themselves, could ever hold her back again.